Hi guys, Serena here from Color Capacity. Thanks for joining me today on my YouTube channel. Today I am going to use my Arches paper and my Mungyo paint set, my 48 paint set, to draw a nice wooded scene. Well, I am actually working from my studio for the first time. Yay! It is not finished. We are in mid to late October, but I still have a lot to do inside and the outside still needs to be finished. So I'm going to wait until all of it is done so I can give everybody the grand tour. But in the meantime, I am going to see if I can enjoy using the studio at this point. I'm working on my old Arches paper that I've had for years and years and years. And I have a few sheets left on this block. What I did was I saw a very interesting kind of forest scene where there was a ruined wall. It was just crumbling to pieces. It was very old and it just intrigued me. So it inspired me to start a drawing on this. And I've done that already. I've inked it in a little bit, and now I want to add some color. The first thing I'm going to do with this, I think, is to give it an overall light tint of a yellowish color to kind of unify it and see if that works to unify it. So let me go ahead and mix up a whole bunch of color. I am using my Raven brush from Jackson's, which I absolutely love. I don't know if that's focusing. I cannot see in here. It's actually so bright, but I'm hoping that's focusing. Anyway, I love this. It's really big. It's thirsty. It'll cover a whole area. So let me go ahead and mix up a whole bunch of paint. All right, so I'm going to wet the whole area here around this general picture. And fortunately for Arches, or for me, the Arches paper can take it. It's, very good quality paper. I've hung on to this paper and hung on to this paper, which is really a bad thing to do. I think we all do this with our precious art supplies. We tend to use the student grade supplies that we've had in our closets, and we just leave these alone. We never bother to take them out, but I'm taking it out now. Okay, so what I want to do is go ahead and put some of this color mostly where I want it to be, and kind of just as a background, just kind of to get it going, to start it and kind of unify it a little bit. I just want to give it a quick overall color, even over the stones, just to see, as an experiment, to see if that will actually unify the picture. I'm using quite a bit of water, as you can see, so it's not going to be a very bright yellow, but it's just going to give me a little bit of the background here. And while I'm at it, I do want to add some green to it. So I'm going to add a little bit of green color. I'm just picking up like a sap green type of color, just for the background there. You'd hardly even see that it's sap green at this point. It doesn't look like sap green. I'm going to kind of run that over again. That still doesn't look like a sap green. I'm going to use a little more of like a hunter green. See if I can get that as a green. That's a little bit more of a greenish tinge there for the background. Just like I'm actually in a forest. Although I did want to have a few bits of fall color in this. So I'm afraid I'm not giving it a very green background. But you know what? This is experimenting. This is what you want to do. This is what you definitely want to do with your paintings. You want to play around with them. Use your paints, play around with them, see what kind of effect you're going to get. It's coming out all the same now. I don't really want that. But I don't want it that dark either, so I'm fighting with it a little bit. So, well, we'll see how it comes out. It comes out the way it comes out. What can I say? That's what I'm doing. I'm playing with it. I'm tired of being afraid of my paints. I'm tired of being afraid to take a chance and get some color on there. So as it is now, I'm going to leave it like that, let it dry, and then we'll come back to it after it's dry. I want to continue on with the painting here, and what I'd like to do is kind of make this a fall sort of scene. So I'm going to just come in with some yellow here. That's a bright yellow. Ooh, that's a bright yellow. Okay, I want to make sure I've got enough water in there too, because I want to add some other colors as I go along. And I'm just getting a general idea of where the foliage is. I'm not going to be too precise. As I go through, I'll layer on more and more and more. And now that I'm looking at it, those colors, even though it's supposed to be toward fall, they look a little bit bright. Maybe when I add some of the lighter yellows to the background and browns to the background, it will mute it down a little bit. It won't be quite so bright, but we'll find out if I made a mistake or not. So let's leave it at that for now. We'll let that dry and we'll come back to it in a bit. Well, sorry about that. My battery died. And I just kept going and painting away. So you didn't get to see that part of it, but you can see how as I brought in more browns and the darker olive green, how it's sort of toned down this bright orange, which is good. And then I kind of crossed my fingers as I did this part because I do want it to be in a dark shade. And I'm going to work more with this section and bring this in the shade too. So it's going to be a darker forest, or maybe the tree here and the leaves are going to cast more of a shadow on this part right here, so I get more contrast. But you didn't get to see that, but again, it's the layering of watercolor that gives you that depth and gets it going for you, gets that contrast. Wow, it's windy. Sorry about that. It gets that contrast going. And it's echoing in here as it is, so I'm sorry for the sound. But I did use some more Payne's Gray, and I hit in some olive green, dark, and some brown, some Van Dyke brown in there. So you can see it's wrinkly right now. I want to let it dry because I added quite a bit of water to that background to get it to blend more like I wanted it to. I kind of want it in the background so you're not focusing on that. But because of that, we have to let it dry, and can't rush that process. So I'll turn it off and we'll come back to this when it's dry. Okay, let's continue on with this a little bit. What I'd like to do, I want to get some layers in the background to give this some depth. And I hope by doing this here, I am not going to ruin it. You know when you have something going just well, and then you start messing with it, and you say, oh, why did I do that? But I'm going to just get some layers back here. And I want to add some misty trees in the background just to kind of give it even more depth as I go along. You see, this has really given it a lot of depth. I kind of lost it there on the edges because I painted it too wet. I was too impatient and I got in there while this was already wet. But what can you do? I'll let this dry and I'll come back to that. And I see now that these trees in the front, these branches in the front that were very bright in the beginning are not bright anymore. They're not sticking out anymore. So I'm going to have to do something for that as well to make them a little bit, make them pop forward a little bit. So let's close this down, we'll let this dry, and we'll come back to it. Now I want to paint a little bit of a hint of trees in the background. So let's go ahead. Hopefully I don't make a mess of this. Now this is still wet, so I have to wait until that dries, but let's kind of give it a little hint in the background. Boy, that's really dark. Okay, I'm going to make it a little lighter by adding more water. So that's what we're going to do. And then I can always darken it up later. But let me get the branches going in here and kind of give it a little bit of shape. You know, I don't want these floating out nowhere. I want them to have a shape to them. But I've got to be really careful and use a very fine brush. I was very guilty of that years ago. I didn't have the right brushes, or I didn't have enough brushes, and I would not break down and get some. I don't know what it was, but I never broke down and got the right brushes, and I would struggle and struggle and have very, very wide things where I didn't want wide things, like branches. They just came out blobby looking, and it just didn't look real. There was something wrong about it, and I just couldn't fix it by, you know, no matter what I did. I really needed to get the right brushes. Don't fight with your materials. If you need something, you know, break down, get it, save for it, get it, whatever you got to do, but get it, because it's going to make your life so much easier. You don't want to fight with your materials. That's one thing you don't want to do, because it'll show in your work, and it's going to make the learning that much longer. You're just going to have to struggle with it, and for what? For no real good reason. So get the materials that you need. You know, put it on your wish list. Don't forget. I do that sometimes. If I'm going to an art store, I'll go for one thing, and I'll get home and I'll be like, oh, I also needed, you know, really, and I just could have gotten it and I didn't. So I just wanted to get some of that shape in there, so I knew where I was going with this, and I didn't lose my branch shape, the branch form. Now I'll also make these leaves pop out too, in order to give it a little more substance. So let me work, I think, on the stone wall. What I like to do with the stone wall is add some definition. So even though this is a little wet, I probably shouldn't do that. It's a little damp. It's not wet, but it's damp. So let me let that dry a little longer, and I'll be back and do that in a bit. Now I want to darken up the areas around the stone a little bit. So I'm going to give them a, whoops, not that much definition. Okay, a little bit of definition there, like that. All on one side, just like that. Just to kind of give it some shade, so it looks like the shade is coming from one direction. Well, the more I look at this, the more it feels like it isn't done. I just kind of got tired of working on it because it just was taking so long. So I just stopped. But I want to work a little bit more on it. I'm out here in the studio again. I don't have the heat on, but it is quite a cool day out. It's windy, so please forgive the tarp flapping back and forth that you'll hear from time to time. But I thought I would work a little bit more on it. What I want to do is, I like this right here, and I like the way it kind of looks like it's going into the darkness, like there's more of it in the distance. And I like this little fade in here. I also love the fade in the trees, in the woods there, and I kind of would like to keep that mistiness there, but I want to get this a little bit darker because I think the darkness will also look more realistic. I mean, why is this here in this background that looks the same in the front as it does in the back? So I want to make this a little darker. I also think that will bring out the foliage, the brightness of the foliage, the fall foliage. So I want to work a little on that and see if I can have a little fade out effect and keep this at the same time. Now that's going to be difficult, but let's try. I've got my Mungyo paint set here, my 48 paint set that I'm going to use. I'm finally getting to use some of my things, so that's good. What I want to do here is kind of try to get this. I wish I could do this in sections. Like this I can almost do in a section. Let me do this and then I'll get the camera back on again. Alright, so here's another day. I let a day pass to let all this dry since it's a little cool in this studio here and it does not lend itself to drying very easily, and I don't have electricity, so I can't use a blow dryer to cool it off or dry it off. So I did a little bit over here, as you can see, a little bit over here too, and this has helped a little bit to differentiate the stone from the background, but I didn't want to cover this fogginess up too much, so I think I accomplished that. I like to maybe do a little more over here, just like that, and I need to do something about this branch that's just like hanging mystically in the middle of the forest, so I have to like continue it on somehow. Really, at this point it should go on and have a tree trunk here, because I don't know how long a branch can stand by itself and just keep going, but I need to fix this a little bit. And I think because this video has taken so long to do and this painting's taken so long to do, I'm only going to do a little bit more and then call it quits for the painting. I learned a lot doing it, so that's the main point, but because it's taken so long, I'm going to speed up the footage on most of this, and I will maybe do another one another time. So while I speed this up, I'm going to have some silence, so I hope you'll put up with that and deal with that until I learn a little bit more how to use my camera. Now that once I finish building the studio, I will have more time to figure out how to do voiceovers and so on and so forth. So bear with me on that. But enjoy the painting process as we go along. All right, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm kind of satisfied with that. I might play around a little bit more with these leaves here to make them look, give them a little more contrast. When this dries, give that a little deeper color on the darker side of it, on the shade side. But I don't want to mess with it too much because I think I'm going to ruin it. I'm at the point where I want to overwork it, and I think I'm going to ruin it. This has a nice kind of foggy, misty effect to it, and that's kind of what I was going for, a kind of spooky, old ruins look. So I leave it at that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long for you guys, but sometimes you want to see a little bit different video, something other than unboxings or book reviews. So I thought I would do a little painting in here. Plus I was itching to get into my studio and do some work. Since I haven't done any all summer and I've been putting it off while I did my work. I was very good about it. So, all right. Just to give you an update, here is the temperature. It is now fallen to 40 degrees. I don't know if you can see that on there, 40 degrees. Or, again, for my European customers who are watching, 4 degrees. Yay. It's just short of me being able to see my breath. So I'm going to let this dry. Bring it in the house, let it dry, and I will see you next time. I want you to keep painting, keep exploring, keep experimenting, because that's where you're going to learn. And have fun while you do it. Do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That really does help me. Leave a comment down below if you like this kind of video, if you want to see more of it. Or what kind of videos you would like to see. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and like it. Hit that like button, and I will see you next time.